After the 6 months Bonelab video, I thought I was done, but just when I think I'm out, they pulled me back in. I started paying attention to Fusion, which pulled me back into Bonelab mods, which pulled me back into Bonelab, which pulled me back into Boneworks, which led me to playing both their campaigns again multiple times, which led to me sitting in this chair recording another Bonelab video. Despite any grievances I have with these games, I really can't help myself, and a major reason I keep coming back is their levels. Rarely do I play a game where each level is as distinct, memorable, for better or for worse, and engaging as they are in B&B. It's like crack, except even more awesome. I'll be going through each level in these games in order from worst to best, supporting my placement of them with game design analysis, as well as how cool they look or just how fun they are to play. With all that mumbo jumbo out of the way, grab your licorice, grab your popcorn, and take a seat, because it's time to rank every single Bonelab and Boneworks level from worst to best. Coming in at the bottom of the list, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, is Pillar. Pre-patch, post-patch, doesn't matter, this level is stinky, smelly ass. It's ridiculously short, narrow, and uninteresting as a platforming challenge, which is really bad if you're just a platforming level. It's gross to look at, has annoying enemies, and no soundtrack. All this adds some sour whipped cream on top of the anti-freeze sundae that is this level, and I'm genuinely kind of at a loss as to how it came out the way it did and why it's included in the level lineup at all. There's so many better ways to introduce a tall character. You can have him climb over walls, do an obstacle course, but instead you shoved him in a cramped room and had him climb like monkey bars and shit. I just don't understand. This level's terrible. Moving on. Moon is a much more pleasant experience than Pillar, but that bar is set so low that it doesn't really mean anything. It's like congratulating a toddler for eating food. Like, yeah, you did it, but it's not impressive. Everyone does it. Fucking idiot. Moon has a bumping little tune and cool visuals. However, this isn't enough to distract from the fact that there's nothing to do here. You can slowly walk around or bounce pad to random assets or beeline it to the destination and that's it. It feels like a sandbox map that was just shoved into Bonelab to pad its sad runtime and make it a little bit sadder. I feel kinda bad placing Monogon Raceway so low because the idea and ambition is there. A physics-controlled go-kart track is really cool in theory and the map looks pretty nice and unique. But it's all fun and games until you actually start driving the cart and then the wheels come off. Whenever the cart flipped over, I instantly got motion sick, which probably, to be fair, doesn't apply to everyone, so they might not hate this level as much as I do. The cart's also slow as hell on some O.J. Simpson Bronco car chase shit, which doesn't help either. And when I dislike the cart in a racing level, I also kinda have to dislike the racing level. This level is just a 45-second cutscene, so you might be confused as to how it ranked above entire actual levels, so let me explain. Playing those earlier levels is like a net negative on my life, whereas playing Big Anomaly B is like a net nothing. I'd rather watch paint dry than be lit on fire, is what I'm trying to say. Magma Gate's probably the most forgettable level in Bonelab to me. I really have nothing to say about it. The idea is cool enough, but the execution's just really lame, and it never really feels satisfying or fun to play. The music goes kinda hard, but it's impossible to lose, and there's no sense of momentum or pacing or anything. It's just a kinda shit minigame.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
Our first Boneworks level of the list, Break Room, is an effective and super intriguing intro to Boneworks. It's got the little lore notes everywhere, this disgustingly realistic magazine, and these little ball fellas. Just like Big Anomaly B though, it serves as more of a cutscene, and it's very short. Break Room isn't bad, it's just more of an intro than a level, so I kinda have to put it here. At this point in the list, the levels are no longer bad or mid, and we step into decent territory. Mine Dive is a unique level in that it's a physics-based sit-down roller coaster / on-rail shooter, which no other level across either game really replicates. Mine Dive blew me away on the first go with the insane visuals, triumphant music, and roller coaster gimmick, but the novelty kinda runs out on subsequent playthroughs. When I played it recently for this video, I felt actively trapped on the cart with nothing to do but shoot cardboard cutouts and sploink the yoinky. This gun is a nice engaging tool, but I feel like it could have been better utilized at some point, if in the level maybe you transition from shooting cardboard cutouts to real enemies or something. Solid level though.
Hey dog, get some ice cream? Only a spoonful.
The lab is a fun little hub world with lots of wacky activities built in. It's not super standout, but it houses all the good post-game content and has its fair share of tools to goof around with. The crane puzzle was really stupid, but some hints were patched in that make it a solid physics puzzle in my eyes, and the whole level looks pretty cool. Just nothing to write home about.
Poggers.
When I spent 2 nights in the county jail for my manslaughter case, otherwise known as the Super Bowl Sunday incident, it didn't look anything like this. Dungeon gets points because it's so incredibly surreal. This whole level feels like a weird early European fever dream in contrast to the technology of MythOS City. Just like Mind Dive though, the novelty wears off on subsequent playthroughs, although messing around with the Forge is always a little bit of fun. Home is a fitting conclusion to Bonelab, but one I am a little disappointed with. Getting revenge on your dripless, astute peers is super cathartic, but the village is laughably small. The windmill scene is absolutely striking and has stayed with me since the game came out, but what follows is a 3-minute drive with lore implications that really just upset me. I don't understand why games are so interested in telling a cyclical story just for the sake of it. It happens all the time. When Dark Souls does it, it's beautiful because it embodies its themes of inevitability and fighting nature, but Bonelab doesn't have these themes, so it felt like Mr. Alex Knoll just wanted to throw a twist in there for no reason. This is the first level on the list with actual gunplay and enemy placement though, which is nice and elevates it a lot. Arena is just combat, but luckily enough, Boneworks combat is awesome. Not too much to talk about here, it's a very simple level with little details like King Ford and his entourage of nobodies to hype you up. If it was longer and more challenging, it'd probably be just a little bit higher. The last of the mediocre Bonelab levels, Long Run is a disjointed trip through some sewer doo-doo troughs, but man is it fun. It's fast-paced, the enemies are in interesting positions that catch you off guard if you're not careful, and the whole vibe is just unique. The physics puzzle here does kinda suck ass though, because it's really compressed, which is bad because it's one of the only levels in Bonelab to have physics puzzles. Now that I think about it, this level actually has 2 really bad physics puzzles, which is enough to knock it down to where it is on the list. On release, this was my least favorite level in Bonelab. There was just nothing here other than wonky platforming sections. With the release of Patch 2 though, Sprint Bridge was completely overhauled into one of the best levels in Bonelab, thanks to the addition of enemies and a patrolling helicopter. There's now a reason to sprint through the bridge, and taking down enemies while dodging the ever-present threat of getting lit up is thrilling and totally unique to this level. The music's still mediocre, the platforming still blows, but huge ups to SLZ for recognizing a weakness in its level design and almost totally fixing it. Don't get mad. Please don't get mad. I know people like this one. Sewers is one of Boneworks' longest levels, but whereas that works in favor of the top few entries on the list, it really doesn't here. Sewers has great set pieces and ambiance, and all the lore stuff with the null bodies is interesting, but the enemy encounters in this level kinda suck. They're either in spooky tubes or dim hallways, and neither setting makes for an interesting fight. The back third of this level also drags a lot, and it's one of the only main Boneworks levels I barely ever come back to. It just never really feels as fun or as satisfying to play through. Serving as the only true boss battle in the series, Time Tower is an epic confrontation revolving around MythOS's system clock. Shooting the little time testicles into the clock slots is satisfying as hell, and dealing with the enemies simultaneously leads to this probably being the hardest level in either game. For what it is, it's climactic and fun, but it is very short and can get a little janky with the cannons.
Hey yo, the pizza here!
From this point onward, the levels get near impossible to rank, and I'm gonna have more to say about them. Street Puncher is like a physics-based first-person Streets of Rage, and it's as fun as it sounds. The city the level takes place in has this really interesting mesh of 2D pixelated textures and 3D props, with a neon gristled look to it all. The security dudes are basic, but have the benefit of being human, so killing them feels visceral and rewarding, like in real life. Hotline Miami-inspired soundtrack goes hard, and each room is consistently engaging, with my favorites being the Katana hallway and the final boss encounter. I'm a little let down that this guy is just a basic enemy, but other than that, it's a really great level, and probably the Bonelab level I go back to the most. It's always fun. Rarely do these games test your melee combat, but when they do, it's always a good time. Warehouse is one of those levels that leaves you feeling like a genius. There's so many different ways to approach it. You could go all the way around and find the battery, or climb the fence, or smash the window and climb in, or climb the water tower and jump across the whole map. Like every option you can think of is probably viable, and to me that's the mark of a great immersive sim design. Beyond the open-ended nature of the level though, there isn't all that much here. It's way too short, and had there been another choose-your-own-adventure type section after the first warehouse, this level would easily be top 5. Instead, there's a quick and fun train shootout, and the level just kinda ends after only like 5 or 10 minutes. Insanely well-designed level that does not reach its full potential. The conclusion to probably my favorite game of all time, Throne Room stands on its own as an extremely fun and grandiose level. Colored rays casting through the stained glass windows, the menacing medieval jam culminating in a Chicago-style fistfight with the beefed-up King Ford crescendos into the crossing of the void. Once the threshold is open, you and your army of goofballs have to fend against Monogon's last-ditch effort and work your way to the large ladder. I've seen people diss on the large ladder, but I think it does something special and takes full advantage of VR. Getting up this ladder is physically demanding, and by the time I got to the top, I felt a sense of triumph. Me, with kinda sore shoulders and tries, scaled this final wall, and when a game's got your arms toasted, that's fucking immersion. Throne Room is a special kind of ending because it really does feel earned rather than just given. Big Anomaly A is straight up high octane combat, and it don't mess around. The liminal space backdrop makes for a perfectly creepy ambience, contrasted to the constant ripping and tearing. Enemies are placed to catch you off guard and force you to use your environment, like these pillars in the intro hallway. I wish more levels in Bonelab did this, as there's nothing more immersive than physically ducking and peeking around virtual cover to dispatch someone. It's simple, straightforward slaughter, with a lot of thought put into the design behind the scenes. Central Station serves as the climax of the first half of Boneworks, and you can really feel it. The level itself is pretty standard Boneworks, some good physics puzzles, combat encounters, etc. But what really puts this one over the top for me is atmosphere. Walking up those stairs with thunder crackling over your head to look up at the beacon of immortality over the skyline, that's a special moment. This whole level drowns me in that stormy, secretive feeling where you're pushing forward into something you don't completely understand. For managing to elicit such a palpable, human feeling, Central Station is high up on the list. 'Cause damn, that shit go hard. Ascent starts out slow with this weird-ass ball section, but once it gets going, it's incredible. It feels like a climb out of the recesses of MythOS, and working my way up with the music just gets me pumped. Ascent is an experience and a masterclass in level variety, constantly switching up the flow from combat to puzzle, and stuff in between, like the train section. The lore implications are super interesting, the hype is real, everything past the first 5 to 10 minutes just falls into place for Bonelab's longest level. Yeah! Runoff is is high-octane O.J. Simpson action from start to finish. There's a lot of O.J. in this script. Weaving through these tunnels while being flanked by Omni-Wreckers is so goddamn immersive, and it's one of the only levels where I constantly physically duck down and take cover because I'm just so in it. It also has the best physics puzzle in the game in my opinion, with this tricky little elevator that totally got me the first time. And I'm not stupid, I swear. Runoff always gets my blood pumping and is never not fun. I just wish I had honestly returned to it more often. Descent is the perfect first level. The setup is dark and intriguing, immediately motivating the player to get some revenge. From here, the level slowly drip feeds you into MythOS and really builds up this aura of mystery. Descent gets me asking questions. Who wanted me dead? Why? Where are the Boneworks devs? Who am I? All this buildup explodes into an epic little battle and a grand entrance into the lab. This shit set my expectations so high for the rest of the game, and really got my gears turning. It's just such a shame that the rest of the game fails to do Descent any justice. Streets may not be the most exciting level, but it's so incredibly memorable. Walking through the dead alleys of MythOS City, observing empty playgrounds, basketball courts, and offices. It's just so somber. There's this very real sense of scale in the city, which makes this feeling of abandonment all the more surreal. The music helps so much in maintaining this atmosphere, and the way this level feels is just so different from everything else in these games. It still manages to jam some combat in at the end too, to make for a really complete and emotional-ish package of a level. I wish more levels in video games in general made me feel like Streets does. When people ask me what my favorite video game level of all time is, I almost always say Museum from Boneworks. When I was a little kid, my favorite place in the world was this children's science museum called Stepping Stones. It was filled with all these interactive exhibits, surreal art and architecture, and just dripping with a sense of wonder. Playing Museum for the first and every subsequent time perfectly captures that feeling. Every room is its own little exhibit with buttons to push, weights to lift, guns to shoot, didn't have that at Stepping Stones, and shit to knock over. The dreamlike visuals and music combine for this sensory experience that just makes me so goddamn happy whenever I boot this level up. I'm so glad this level exists, and honestly, when I first played it, I teared up a little bit just thinking about being just a much younger, stupider little child. But although it's my favorite level of all time, it's objectively not the best level in either Bonelab or Boneworks. That title handily belongs to... I mean, fuck. How do you beat Tower? You can't. He's the GOAT. The Michael Jordan Wayne Gretzky freak combo of a video game level. I honestly don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll start with the music. Busting down a door and peering up at this monolithic shopping complex with this evil-ass, vicious drone in the background just hits me in the chest like a sledgehammer. Every square inch of this level is explorable, and although it isn't absolutely massive, the level of detail, polish, and exciting encounters SLZ crammed in makes it feel like an odyssey. This level is also paced incredibly, too. Starting on the ground floor, you got your more regular fights, exploration, whatever. Then as you work your way up, the encounters get more and more intense and specialized until you're slaughtering roomfuls of enemies. The run and gun section at the top too, that shit goes hard! MythOS kicks in, Monogon throws the very last of their Omni projectors at you, but you're strapped out the ass with 4 SMGs and you just start flying. It really speaks for itself. It's objectively the best level in any VR game, and really shows what SLZ is capable of. Thanks for watching. The next 2 videos are ones I'm really excited about, so I hope you stick around for them, namely the Cruelty Squad review. Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett, and stay tuned.